What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out America's most disrespectful artillery of World War II, the M1 240mm Black Dragon. Actually, now that I actually read the Black Dragon part, I'm pretty sure I do know what this is. I'm pretty sure Taiwan still uses it as a coastal defense, I believe. That I believe actually still has like enough range to reach mainland China, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, I'm not positive. But either way, let's jump into it.
Nope, don't feel like filming today. Let's see what's on Netflix.
I just got a crotch shot.
And thanks to the brave efforts of the infantry, navy and air corps, World War II was won by them and them alone, with absolutely no help whatsoever from field artillery, which were just kind of there and didn't really contribute much at all.
I know he's playing it up for a joke, but I know people are playing it as a joke, but that was definitely I know I have seen some documentaries and shit like that by people who claim that that's how that actually went down. It's kind of fucking ridiculous.
Cool.
Yes, set it straight.
Alright, let's get something straight right now. The Queen of Battle may get all the glory, but the King of Battle is the reason she gets to do her job in the first place. That said, if you take a look at how World War II has been remembered in the media to include books, movies, and TV, you'd think the entire war was won by the infantry, the Air Corps, and the Navy alone. Like, you can't go to a single streaming service without being served up legendary pieces of Army work like Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan.
No, it's all
the
great.
Army Air Corps has some absolute bangers like Red Tails, Masters of Air, and Pearl Harbor. Hell, even the Navy got Midway and the criminally slept on Greyhound, showcasing what 16-inch...
Let me make a note of that. I'm always down for some new fucking movies, and I haven't heard of it. Cool. Let's get back to it.
Steel diplomacy looks like in action. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not...
Also, I fucking love artillery. That shit's so fucking cool. They don't get a lot of the glory, but god damn are they cool. That is one cool thing that, one little detail if you ever watched Saga of Tanya the Evil. They do not downplay the importance of artillery in that show. Which, for something that's like a mix between Magical Girl, World War I, and World War II, you would think that they would get lost in the sauce a bit. No, artillery is a big piece of it, and I'm really glad that they included it.
Away from those guys and what they did at all. But here's the thing: none of that would have mattered if it weren't for field artillery. It's as simple as that. Field artillery
it is as simple as that.
To America defending the belt for World War champ. So just where in the actual hell is the HBO miniseries about those guys? I'm talking about the soldiers.
I would watch the fuck out of that.
Mud, eyeballing maps and crunching numbers, waiting for the order to unleash enough hate on demand.
Bellowing bitch is such a cool fucking thing.
Before the infantry moved in, field artillery gets no love, and yet without it, every single one of those famous war stories would have had a very different ending. You're
artillery
just being
is
dramatic again. There's plenty of media that covers field artillery.
What?
I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write this wannabe black electrician a mean comment. That'll show him. Oh, really? That's how you feel?
Would
you bet your life?
I'm sorry. Kind of. I could. That is something someone would say, definitely. But no. I mean, yeah, it's kind of in the same wheelhouse of Fat Electrician, but I genuinely do. This is only my second video from him, but I do genuinely like the subtle nuances between him and Nick. I honestly do. He is... I'm giving you a like. You definitely deserve it. No. There are some definite... Y'all are definitely alike, but you guys have enough differences to where I really enjoy you. I would love to see them interact on Unsub. That'd be really fucking cool. Like, honestly, I think that'd be really fucking cool.
Life on it? I take that one a bill. Hold on. What do you mean, bet my life on it? I don't follow.
See, like I love the fact that Nick's whole thing is internet, a web warrior or whatever, where he has the helmet and the keyboard is like their weapon. Him, no, it's some fucking snotty ass fucking nerd bitch who thinks he knows more than you because reasons. No, I like it. I like their subtle nuances.
What the hell's going on?
Hello, Tanner. I want to play a game.
What the hell? Who is that? Chucky, is that you?
You think you are safe behind the
Chucky?
protection of your screen. You think you can say whatever you want and you won't face the consequences of your actions.
No, man. I didn't mean it like that. I was just talking shit on the...
What's funny is this is definitely something Jigsaw would do. That's totally a Jigsaw move.
It's easier than putting in the effort than to make my own video. You know how it goes.
In order to escape from here, then you must do this.
Okay. What do I have to do?
Name 5 movies about the King of Battle.
No, please, anything but that. I admit, okay, they don't exist, all right? I admit it. They don't exist.
I love
If
that.
you cannot, you will be locked in this room and forced to listen to liberal news outlets until your brain rots.
Oh, that sounds like hell.
The choice
Or just
is
news.
yours.
Not even just liberal in general, which, yeah, that does sound bad, but just in general, listening to fucking news outlets until my brain rots, that sounds like hell. That sounds like absolute hell.
That was weird. Why does it smell like cheap cologne and pumpkin spice latte in here? Anyway, back to my original topic, which was my point still stands. Field artillery was, and still is in a lot of ways, insanely underappreciated, even though it doesn't have many of the conventional problems that other weapon systems might have. With FA, you don't need a runway, you don't need clear skies to find your target, and you most certainly don't have to be parked next to an ocean to get your big guns to bust up some bunkers. All you need is a set of coordinates, a big-ass gun, and a few guys who really hate sleep, but hate the enemy's nice things even more. Which brings us neatly along to the main character, which is the...
I like that description of the military. It's just, I hate sleep. They hate sleep, but they hate the enemy having nice things more. I really like that.
240 howitzer, better known as the Black Dragon. And like most pieces of military equipment with cool sounding names, you might be wondering to yourself right now, who can...
That reminds me, or am I thinking from the beginning, talking about the Black Dragon, or am I thinking of, is that just like the people who operate the guns, or is that just their like designation?
Came up with that name, and why did they...
Who knows? Maybe he'll mention it.
In the first place?
You might as well ask, why is the tree good? Why is the sunset good? Why are boobs good?
Yeah,
It just
the answer
is.
to that question is probably just because it sounded cool. Guys, there doesn't always have to be some deep philosophical reasoning behind absolutely everything. I searched everywhere and I couldn't find any conclusive solid data to support how it earned that name, so why don't we all just pretend like
It
the Army
billows,
isn't
it's
as
big,
clever as we all like to think
it's
it is,
colored,
and
the
why don't we
metal
go
is
with
black.
The assumption that when Grunt sees big
It's big, it's colored black, and when you fire it, it billows out smoke like a dragon and destroys shit like a dragon. I'd call that a black dragon. I'm willing to go with that.
gun make big boom, the first thing that probably popped into his head was, you know what makes the enemy go into the forever sleep? A mythical fire lizard. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Death, black,
Yes.
fire, dragon. Black dragon. Man, I gotta get this video under control. It's only been like a few minutes and it's already gone
Also,
completely
another
off
thing.
the rails more than once.
Another thing. Editing is very much so different between both of them. And I enjoy both editing.
Anyway, the Black Dragon was the US Army's answer to every problem that couldn't be solved with regular artillery or small arms. If the enemy had a fortified position, the Black Dragon made sure that they used to have a fortified position. Is this making sense? What I'm trying to tell you is that the Black Dragon was like the Domino's pizza of high explosives. You give those guys a grid coordinate and enough ordnance to make LT nervous, and in 30 minutes or less, they could deliver hot, steaming rounds to delete that entire grid square.
I don't know. I was going to say, or is it more like Little Caesars? It's hot and it's ready for you, bitch.
Or your next one's free. They're like that old guy waiting to come out of retirement to tell China to get off my lawn. Funny how no one wants to try you when the threat of 10 inches of personal space penetration is on the table.
That's what she said.
Alright, with the Black
Damn it,
Dragon,
he
it's
beat
more
me
like
to the joke.
9.45 inches, but men, you know the drill. Always round up. Focus
Damn
up,
right.
man. The Black Dragon was truly the stuff of nightmares, which
3.
begs the obvious question, just how in the hell did field artillery go from a portable slight nuisance to this heavyweight certified problem? Well, obviously, in true American fashion, we of course turn to our unofficial motto of, yeah, but what if we made it bigger? But even that doesn't tell the full story, and in order to have some full context, we have to briefly travel back in time to World War I, where America's field artillery capability looked a lot different. When the US jumped into World War I, its field artillery
1918,
was,
really good movie.
if I'm being kind, let's call it suboptimal. Long story short, Uncle Sam basically showed up using borrowed British and French guns because the US hadn't developed enough modern artillery of its own. These were basically hand-me-downs from our allies, which went about as well as you'd expect, and after that lukewarm artillery performance, the US Army decided to reevaluate their entire inventory. But in order to do that, we were going to need some data. In 1919, General Westervelt headed up the Westervelt Board, also known as the Caliber Board. The mission was simple.
It's a dope-ass uniform.
Artillery investigation. The board interviewed British, French, and Italian artillery experts and studied captured German guns. They basically conducted a full-blown diagnosis on US artillery shortcomings, and what they found was shocking.
That's really fucking smart.
Can't watch anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't looking too good, with their conclusion being, quote, every item of hardware of war needed improvement. In other words, everything sucked, so we needed to upgrade all the things. Now let's fast forward a bit past the budget cuts and past the painfully slow military procurement process to the early 1940s, where field artillery was going through somewhat of a renaissance. The biggest game changer from this time wasn't even the guns, it was the supporting equipment and the tactics surrounding them. For starters,
radios and shit, yeah.
The Fire Direction Center, or FDC, we now had a brain to link an artillery battalion.
Oh, I know that sound. No, yeah, this would definitely fucking change it, because now it's not, you don't have to have a runner or a pigeon or something like that. No, you can actively have someone call it in. Yeah, makes sense.
Instead of each battery doing its own thing like an orchestra with no conductor, the FDC allowed the whole battalion of guns to act together in concert.
See how fast that thing shot back?
The FD.
Let's see. Yeah. I don't know what FPS this is filmed in, but look, there. Out. That's fucking insane.
FDC allowed the whole battalion's guns to act together in concert, playing the same explosive tune. Additionally, forward observers became a key part of this system, enabling a guy to be on the front lines with binos and a radio to call in enemy locations for the FDC, allowing them to whip up some firing data.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, it gets even better than that, because someone actually had a genuinely good idea fairy moment when they decided to not just limit forward observers to ground duty, but to send them up in aircraft as well. FOs were now flying around in L4 Grasshoppers, which allowed them to spot and radio in targets far beyond what ground observers could ever see. Speaking of comms, this was yet another huge upgrade, with US artillery units now fully embracing the use of tactical radio communication. Combined, all these improvements meant field artillery could sling long-range hate at a moment's notice and could do it en masse with accuracy and precision. But keep in mind, tech and tactics are only part of the battle. In order to bring the steel rain, they need some seriously upgraded delivery systems as well. One of the early projects was the 75mm pack howitzer. This was a nifty little gun that could be dismantled and carried over long distances through rough terrain.
Pack mules,
like
hence the name.
Travel-sized artillery when US troops needed some portable punch in mountains, jungles, and anywhere a regular gun couldn't be reasonably towed. But by far and away, the MVP of American division artillery in World War II was the 105mm howitzer. In total, about 8,500 of the M2A1 105mm howitzers were built between 1941 and 1945. This easily made them the most widely produced US field artillery pieces of the entire war. The 105 had huge love from the troops because it hit a real sweet spot with them. It was light enough to be towed with a regular truck, but big enough to turn enemy positions in.
Weirdly enough, I believe it's the 105 anyway. The modern one anyway. According to Zach Hazard, those are considered small arms because theoretically you could break it down and be carried by men. Supposedly. Weird little tidbit.
Into instant regret. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that the US was taking its artillery extra serious this time. And by the end of World War II, the US had manufactured well over 20,000 field artillery pieces with everything from 75 to 155mm pieces. Guys, this is good. This is exactly what America needed. They saw a problem, and they came up with a solution. There was just one tiny question we still haven't answered yet. Yeah, but can we make it bigger?
Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of a stupid question. Of course we're going to make it bigger. And what we came up with was...
This is like the, what was it? When we fucking took bombs and made them into artillery shells.
The 155
Think Fat
millimeter
Electrician did video on
M1A1,
it.
aka the Long Tom. The Long Tom was an absolute brute of a weapon system in every sense.
Love that name,
Fully
Long
loaded,
Tom.
this nearly 31,000-pound beast could sling 95-pound shells over 14 miles away with pinpoint accuracy. The Long Tom earned high praise for its performance, and in some ways, it was almost too good at its job.
That just makes no fucking sense.
No such thing.
It's just bull.
Just hear me out, Billy Boy, and give me a chance to explain. See, the problem with the Long Tom was that units loved it so much that they nearly always fired it at max charge all the time. Now, this is great for sending rounds way downrange, but not so great for barrel life. If you weren't careful, you could easily burn up one of these
I can
barrels,
see
and
that.
changing one out was a significant emotional event, to say the least. It was best for everyone if a Long Tom crew had a little bit of chill every now and again. Despite all this, the Long Tom's exceptional performance only helped to further reinforce that old familiar thought that kept creeping up in the American military minds.
Can we
If
make it
big is
bigger?
good, then bigger must be better.
Obviously.
No.
Now this time around, we actually had some bigger guns in the form of French 240s. Unfortunately, the Frenchie was about as user-friendly as a toaster in a bathtub. It was heavy, clunky, and kind of a pain in to work with. They were so cumbersome and problem-ridden that by the 1920s, the army was like, yeah, you know what, France? We're good. We'll make our own. And with that, the Ordnance Department got to work and teamed up the newly proposed 240mm design with a planned 8-inch gun as well. Think of these guns as two big siblings on the same development path. Kind of like a joint project, with one being a shorter barreled howitzer for lobbing huge shells in high arc, and the other being a long barreled gun for slinging shells farther and faster.
Or however the fuck
From
you
this
say it.
program came the 240mm howitzer M1, and it started rolling out by late 1943. It fired massive 360-pound high-explosive shells and could sling those fat bodies over 14 miles away. This made the M1 officially the most powerful U.S. field artillery piece of World War II, period. That's bullcrap. The U.S. fielded railway guns that fired shells at 406mm, weighed 2,200 pounds each, and had a range of 25 miles. You still haven't learned to do your research before you make these videos. Oh my gosh, are you still here? All right,
I don't like him.
First of all, railway guns were a good idea in theory, but in execution, they were too big, too heavy, and too slow to actually be useful. What good is big power
God, that's
if you can't
fucking
get it to
huge.
the right place at the right time to deliver the right payload? And second of all,
Good point.
clearly you haven't learned your lesson about talking shit all the time. Do I need to call up Billy and have him pay you a visit again?
Hello, Tanner.
Nah, man. I'll be good. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, alongside the 240 M1 was the 8-inch gun M1. Now, 8 inches at 203mm is a smaller diameter, but don't let that fool you. Its smaller round and longer barrel meant the 8-inch gun had more range at 19 miles compared to the 240's 14 miles, but in exchange, it also had a lighter projectile at 240 pounds compared to 360. But as
God,
physics
that's
would like
pretty
to
fucking
remind you,
big.
with great speed comes great friction, and with great friction comes immense heat. And due to this heat, the
Immense
8-inch were
heat
proved to
means
be very
fucked up
problematic
barrels.
because the barrels were burning out too quick, which in turn led to accuracy issues. Now, even so, they did push the 8-inch guns into action, and they were highly successful in Italy, even though they never did find a solution to that whole barrel erosion issue. This meant that the 8-incher was out and the 240 was in. It was officially the new long-range crater creator America was going to standardize for the remainder of the
God, yet again, the way he says stuff sometimes, I fucking love. The long range crater creator. I love that term.
war. Now, all that said, just
He does
because it
really
was the
well with
Army
that kind of
shiny new
shit.
toy didn't mean at all that it was well received. But by late February 1944, the first 240s had arrived in Italy, and they wasted no time proving the haters wrong. Almost immediately, these guns showed their worth by blowing up key bridges and hardened targets at ridiculous ranges. Batteries of 240s unleashed hell on the enemy, helping to pulverize the last strongholds that bombs and smaller guns couldn't touch. Anything that was left behind was completely leveled, and everyone became an instant believer, with troops starting to now refer to it as the Black Dragon. Suddenly, heavy artillery
That's
battalions
dope.
armed with Black Dragons were now the new hotness, and not long after that, the US was shipping most of the 240 units to Northwest Europe, where they could help crack German bunkers and city defenses. In total, the Army raised 21 battalions of 240 howitzers during the war, with 15 deployed to Europe and 5 in the Pacific. When you think about it, that's a pretty remarkable change of heart. I mean, we went from, not sure if we actually need these, to, we want all the smoke, give us the dragons. All man-crushing aside, remember.
With great power comes great responsibility.
And weight, Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility and weight. Coming in at somewhere
Yeah.
between 29 and 32 tons, the Black Dragon wasn't
I was
exactly
kinda
what you
wondering
call
about that.
light. And yes, I'm fully aware that saying between 29 and 32 tons is not an insignificant difference of 6,000 pounds. I passed 5th grade math as well, you guys, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. Or did I? Anyway, that huge fluctuation in weight changes depending on where you get your source from, and honestly, it doesn't really matter because even at 29 tons, that's still a ton of weight. No pun intended. Moving that kind of weight across that soft European soil was damn near impossible with wheel trucks, and even when you got it into position, you still needed a 20-ton crane to do the final assembly. Hell, the 240 was so heavy that you couldn't even move it in one piece. So in order to even transport it, you had to separate the carriage from the cannon and assemble the whole thing together in place. Now, all that negativity aside, it actually got better from here, with the setup time not being completely horrible. With a well-trained crew, the standard 8-hour emplacement time could easily be slashed all the way down to 2, which is a hell of a lot faster than the several weeks required by the German railguns. I recommend you check out my Little David video after this if you want to hear my thoughts on those little dick energy monstrosities. But even with all those,
I'll definitely have to check it out.
It was clearly worth it to the troops because all 315 that were produced were put to work all over Europe. Even with the enormous 12 to 14 man crew, the need for special prime movers, experimentation with bigger tires, tracks, and there was even an experimental prototype chassis variant called the T92 howitzer motor carriage that never even made it to the fight. Even with all that, the Black Dragon was
that'd be so fucking cool.
By the end of World War II, the Black Dragon
rolling in that in War Thunder.
U.S. field artillery, and aside from some Navy caliber railway guns briefly used in Europe, nothing in the American arsenal packed a bigger punch on land. Hey, you forgot about that. Shut up. Man, I was literally about to get the words out of my mouth. Chill out. Anyway, what I was saying was nothing in the American arsenal packed a bigger punch on land, except for one outrageous outlier called the Little David mortar. Like I said, I made an entire video about it. You should check it out. I think it's pretty good, but here's the Cliff Notes version. It had a 36-inch caliber and was the biggest mortar not just in America, but for the entire war. Again, before you flip out in the comment section about it, just watch the video first. Or don't. Makes me no difference.
Massive.
I'll just call my homie Billy again and have him pay you a visit if you got issues with my videos. So yeah, technically, the Little David was bigger than the Black Dragon, but
traumatized
it never saw combat. So with all that said, the Black Dragon still holds the crown as the biggest, baddest artillery piece the U.S. Army actually fielded in World War II, and it 100% deserves its GOAT status. Now, it would be logical to think that after World War II, the Black Dragon was done breathing fire. But no, this beast still had one fight left in her. Now let's fast forward a bit to the Korean War, and by this point, the U.S. Army had a tiny little, not so insignificant problem. We ran out of 155 ammo. Yeah, I get it, sounds crazy, and under normal circumstances, this will be a problem. But this is America, we make bombs, not excuses, so of course the next logical step is to take out the 240s from storage and just see what happens.
Oh, say less.
So that's exactly what they did, and the 240s were dusted off and shipped off to support the war effort. Now, as the old saying goes, first impressions matter, and on May 1st, 1953, Communist May Day, I might add, Baker Battery of the 213th fired the first official Black Dragon round of the war at a Chinese position on top of a hill simply referred to as the Donut. Now, this shot was supposed to be just a ceremonial flex, something along the lines of, hey look, we brought big guns, prepare yourselves. But the Black Dragon had other plans, and instead of just making some noise, the first round struck an ammo dump directly on top of the hill, setting off a massive chain reaction. The resulting explosion was so spectacular that the aerial observer—
I'm sorry, that's how you make a fucking impact. It's not, oh look, big gun, just a, explosion, we brought big guns. Nah, bro, we're gonna hit your ammo dump to really fuck with you guys.
Watching the scene unfold reportedly just said, holy shit. The explosion was so bad that it literally took part of the hill with it. Those Black Dragons clearly knew how to party and make an entrance, and over the next 3 months,
they know how to party.
40mm howitzers rained down so much hell that they essentially reshaped the landscape twice over. And if you think I'm exaggerating, keep in mind that each of these shells weighed 360 pounds, and they are flying at you at roughly the same speed as a liberal running you down to tell you why Elon Musk is the devil. This is some serious firepower we're talking about here, and over the course of 88 days, the Black Dragon batteries fired 5,943 rounds, which equates to 2,139,480 pounds of explosives, which, put another way, comes out to approximately 24,300 pounds or 12.15 tons of ordnance dropped every single day.
Jesus. Jesus, that's a lot.
Believe it or not, things get even more interesting from here because there
Really?
were unconfirmed reports that President Eisenhower wanted the Chinese to believe that we had nuclear artillery ready to go at a moment's notice in Korea. And given the size of the Black Dragon shells and the sheer destruction that they caused, it really wouldn't have been hard to sell that idea on our enemies. So there you go. Psychological warfare.
Yeah, it wouldn't
at its
surprise me.
finest. Not long after the war had ended, all the ammo was ran through and the dragons were officially retired. Any remaining guns were either scrapped, sent to museums, or, if you happen to be in Taiwan, you could still find some sitting in coastal bunkers, waiting for some less than friendly
Yes,
neighbors
I
to
was
test
right.
their luck. So while
I was right then. I thought it sounded familiar. Yes.
field artillery
So I was
and their
right.
Black Dragons may never get their own HBO miniseries, a blockbuster movie, or even a decent video game cameo, I think it's safe to say it still deserves its place in the
I would love
halls
so.
of bigger
Oh,
and
hell
better
yeah.
American overkill. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be the guy to bring some of these underappreciated stories to life on the big screen or your favorite streaming service.
That'd be dope.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Guys, I appreciate y'all watching. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section what videos you degenerates demand of me next. Y'all take it easy. CT6 out.
Thank you very much. Liked it already. Dude, yeah. Feel that would actually be so good for a movie theater. Being able to feel the fucking that'd be so cool. So fucking good. It's gonna be linked down below. Make sure you go and give him his love. He fucking deserves it. Like and subscribe, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.